And joining me now to flesh out the consequences a little further is Ali Al-Ahmed. He is the director of the Institute for Gulf Affairs. He joins us here in Washington. Thank you for being with us, Ali. So how serious is this crisis? Is this a new Middle East crisis?
It is a crisis. It's a major crisis. In fact, from all the indications and the steps that has been taken, we see this is basically a confrontation with very little chances of return. We don't see the Qataris budging, and we don't see the Saudis with the Emiratis also letting down their attack or assault on Qatar. So this is going to come to a military confrontation, it seems. The U.S. has chosen to basically to stay away or out of this conflict very clearly. From statements that has been coming out from Washington and from even the Pentagon. The United States does not want to be part of this conflict.
So you look at the list of countries, Qatar is now being isolated. What are the repercussions? How will this hurt this country?
Oh, it hurts Qatar extremely badly. The food that Qatar eats comes from the borders with Saudi Arabia. That's the only exit to land exit to the world. So the Qatari food comes through Saudi territory. So now they have to rely on Iran and Pakistan to get their food by boat and by plane. But most important is the airline travel. So now Qataris can't leave. You are not allowed to stay in any of these Gulf countries who sever relations with Qatar if you are a citizen of Qatar. And if you are not allowed to stay in Qatar if you are a Saudi or Bahraini or Emirati citizen. So that complicates a lot of the issues. So you have the airlines, especially Qatar Airlines, which is a very major part of their economy, is now unable to do flights to the United States, because they have to go north before we go in west, and it's impossible for them to have the direct flights anymore.
Any negative repercussions for the greater region, some of the countries who are actually on the list?
Yes, I mean, there are huge repercussions, because these countries are losing as well, the Bahrainis and the Saudis and Emiratis. You know, they have a lot of shared economic interest, and UAE, for example, is using the gas that's coming out of Qatar, the Dolphin line, which was one time opposed by Saudi Arabia. And now the Qataris can just shut off the valve, and the Emirati economy will be struck severely. And so there is some interdependencies between these countries. So the problem is the escalation is too high at the moment for people to calm down. And I don't see any opportunity right now for a relaxation.
That sounds pretty dire. There are countries calling for dialogue, Turkey calling for dialogue, China calling for dialogue. But realistically, how long can this last, and what will need to happen to resolve this crisis?
It seems from all the information that have been gathered by us that the demand is for Qatar to sever relations with Iran, to basically hand its foreign policy and decision to the Saudi government, and that's going to be very hard to do. That has been the issue always between Saudi Arabia and Qatar, is that since the 1995 palace coup, where Qatar basically left the Saudi influence, sphere of influence, Saudi Arabia has been trying to bring back this small state under its wing again, and that has been the source of the problem. The larger countries trying to dominate a smaller country, and so that's why a siege has been laid, and we might see a greater confrontation. So military confrontation, in fact, is highly possible, because this is what we see in terms of preparation on the ground. That I got report from Yemen, for example, that the bombing has stopped in Yemen, because I think the assets has been moved toward the Qatari borders, and we might see that confrontation occurring in the next few days.
All right, Ali Al-Ahmed, thank you for joining us.